No, I think the light's lower. You have to dim the lights.
My lights are dimmed.
They're dimmed? Looks bright as day in there. No, that's bringing it down. That's bringing it down.
That's only one light bulb that's on. There, I've just turned it off. Now,
there you go. I think that looks good.
But this is one light bulb that's completely on.
Whoa! What happened? It's daytime.
Yeah.
Oh, funky town.
It is. It is funky town.
Folks, we're just marveling at Rob's new light setup.
My whole new office setup. I repainted this entire office, man.
Yeah. How does it feel? I thought you said you weren't handy, and you painted that yourself?
I'm not handy at all. Yeah, no. My son helped me out, but it was a weekend of painting, man. But here, you ready? Listen, this is not going to be fun for anybody, but this is going to be fun for me. Ready, John?
Okay. What's going on? Are you going down the elevator? Is the floor moving?
See you later.
You should do a whole stream like that. You like someone borrowed someone's chair or something, and you're sitting in the. Hello. You should definitely do it like that. It's like I can't hit the button. You should do all your conference calls like that.
I feel like the guy in. I feel like Wilson on the other edge of the fence in Home Improvement.
Well, you can do that, yeah.
Hello, neighbor.
Whatever happened to that guy? Look at this. What's up, folks? Welcome to the Sidekick Show. Thanks for goofing around with us. Rob is showing off his new light setup in what appears to be a standing desk, or he's bought a teeny tiny elevator for his camera. Because that's what you do when you have grown up money. You buy teeny tiny elevators for your webcams and make them go up and down. But it is Monday night, March 20th. We're almost done March. A lot of you coming off your March break, so welcome back. If you went anywhere nice and sunny, don't talk to us about it because we're stuck here.
We don't want to hear it.
Freezing our butts off. It was a little scary. I thought it was going to be snowstorm again on Saturday. I'm like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can deal with it again. Welcome. Yeah. Sounds like the world was sinking.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lewis wants to know where the Batwing is. I actually now have an entire Batman section here.
Oh, well, stay tuned for that. Maybe Rob will show us around. Not during the show because he might drop all this stuff.
Yeah, I probably would.
And his camera has to be removed from his little mini elevator.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a nice retro 1989 Batman poster as well. I showed John beforehand, and I got I got it all. I repainted the whole thing. Couldn't handle the rotate the camera. I'm not going to do that. I couldn't handle the brown and pink color that was here, John. And I think even you were getting annoyed with this. So
no, what drove me nuts was the window, right, dead center. In all your you had all your cool stuff, and then there's like a window dead center. But now you got all this other cool stuff behind you. So I'm pretty impressed. I've still got my junk in the back. I did fit my Terminator head onto my daughter's side table. So hopefully she doesn't.
When she wakes up in the middle of the night.
She's like, it's coming to get me. I guess I just can't show her Terminator 1. But I think that's what it's going to take. Maybe we'll have a Terminator discussion later on how they can reboot this franchise and get people back. But if you are tuning in for the first time in the live show, if you're listening to this on the rewatch or on the audio, please join us for the live show every Monday, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What's up, Izzy? Hi, Izzy. And have some fun with us.
Yeah, we do. And if you haven't had an opportunity to check in on the Heroes World podcast, a new episode dropped last week where we, Stu, John, and myself, we reviewed Creed 3. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check out that review, please go ahead and do so. And keep your notification bells rung or notifying, because we'll have more Heroes World content coming down the pipe. 2 out of the 3 of us may have seen Shazam! Fury of the Gods. So about that.
No one saw that. We're gonna have to talk about that. I don't know if that's coming up in your news break, Rob. If not, I'm gonna bring it up
Yeah, I got something about that.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's get rolling, folks. We like to open up the show. If you guys are tuning in for the first time, we'd like to talk about your weekend. How was your weekend? A lot of stuff came out. Rob, I know he saw Shazam, but I'm wondering if anyone else got up to anything. So let us know in the comments. How was your weekend? What did you check out? What did you get to do? Rob,
yeah, buddy.
Good buddy. How was your weekend other than repainting this fantastic new office setup?
Thanks. Actually, I'll be honest with you. So my daughter and my wife, from Thursday on, they were in Buffalo. Got back yesterday evening. They're in there for a dance competition. So my son and I spent the entire weekend together, and we literally painted this room and another room upstairs. Converted a playroom into my wife's office because she teaches night school online right now. And it sounds silly. Like, you only did 2 rooms, but it took us all weekend long, and especially like moving all of the shelves. And like, my son's like, just grab the shelves and pull them. I'm like, do you know how much these omnibuses weigh? You're out of control.
That's like when we sell comic boxes and people are like, oh, this is not bad. And I'm like, do you want the long box or the short box? I'll get the long box. I'm like, well, long box weighs hella heavy once you fill it up. So if you're moving it around, get these little guys.
Yeah. So it literally was spending all weekend moving furniture around. So, but we did get a chance to see Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and again, we'll get into that another time. But I checked that out, and then honestly, in terms of anything else, John, I think I had finished off the rest of the Brosnan James Bond movies, and I was messaging with our good friend Scott online today. So I'm going to be moving into the Daniel Craig ones, which I really enjoy those. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's really about it, John. Honestly, my entire weekend was from 7:30 a.m. to almost 11:30 at night was painting the rooms and doing crazy house shit, which let me just be honest with you. The last time I painted, John, was like, I might have been 24 years ago, 26 years ago. Oh. I don't like painting. What I should have done in hindsight is probably paid somebody to paint while my wife was away and then told her I did it.
Yo, you did a wicked job. These are all edged and stuff
I have zero interest in ever doing this again.
Yeah. I think when we moved in, I did a significant amount of the rooms and stuff, and it kills. It really hurt my wrist doing the edging and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then the roller, if you put a little too much pressure on the roller,
paint splattering.
Yeah.
Can I tell you? And this is embarrassing. I had a step stool. It was an old school step stool, like an old metal one. It broke. I was standing on it, and all of a sudden, it fell, and I fell backwards. My foot went into the paint tray, and I've actually really hurt my back. And I don't know if it was like painting like up above. I don't know if it was lifting everything and moving. I don't know what I've done to it. But it's like I was trying to walk the dog. I looked like a 90-year-old geriatric person with one leg trying to walk the dog last night because I was like humbled over and in pain. So I'm done, man.
So that's your painting quota for the year.
My life.
I'm done. I'm hiring professionals.
Don't even invite me to one of those paint nights or whatever where people will sit and drink beer and paint shit. I ain't doing it. I'm done.
Painting miniatures. We could have a night where you learn.
I was actually thinking. I was expecting you to say, "Hey, why didn't you call me over? I'm used to painting." I said, "Yeah, but I've seen you. It would take you hours and years."
It'd be like a funny mural in the background of like Ethan Hunt like killing James Bond.
It would just be John's name.
I just graffiti it over every wall.
But how was your weekend?
Whole bunch of penises on the wall or something.
Sure, why not?
Oh my god! All right, So let me check in quickly with the guys here. It looks like a bunch of people did go see Shazam. You saw Shazam, right? So Fraser said he took his nephew to go see it, and like I said, I'm pretty sure Shazam's going to come up in your news break. So I'm happy that a bunch of people saw it. I guess you and Stu might have seen it. I have no intentions of going to see it, so you guys will have to do something without me, or I'll moderate. And it sounds like along the lines of your painting and everything, Gord and Sarah moving into their house. I don't know if it's their first house, because I know they did live in a condo or an apartment of some kind before. Gord, let us know if you're going to be doing any painting. Maybe you can get some tips from Rob.
Yeah, like honestly, like when you have those like paint parties and you invite your friends over, that's just like why would you do that? Why would you flick that onto anybody? That's not fun. No.
Yeah,
So hopefully they don't do that.
A couple people did pitch in when I think we got the original store. A couple people did help pitch in, paint the walls.
Right.
But we were changing. I think the carpet was coming out, so we just slathered the walls. We got the biggest roller they had at Home Depot and just started going crazy on it. So don't look at that closely. Anyway, Gordon is gonna buy an airbrush. Yeah, you should definitely have done that, Rob. That'd be a lot of fun. Do some stencils and stuff like that. So Rob, I didn't get to a ton this week. We had a lot of stuff going down in the store. I did dust off an oldie but a goodie. You know, you're eating your dinner and stuff like that, and you're looking for something to watch. You don't want to pick something new that you haven't seen because you're going to be doing other stuff, right? And you don't want to pick something too serious. So I stumbled across Gone in 60 Seconds. Remember Nicolas Cage, Angelina Jolie? I feel like we did rewatch it a little while ago when we were talking about Nicolas Cage. But that movie's fun. Nicolas Cage is I think we all do appreciate him, but he's just this gifted guy that did a bunch of silly action movies. And he's really good in it. Like there's a moment where he asks for permission to go do his go back to his crime ways from his mom to save his brother. And it's just a cool scene. He's like, it's gonna make me do some things that I promised you I wouldn't do, Mom. And then she's like, save your brother or whatever. And then he's like, all right. And then he just goes. And the movie is really silly when they get to the point where they're stealing cars, because the stuff they do looks really, I guess it looks funny on screen. They're like pumping things to do it and stuff. But overall, it's a fun watch. If anyone hasn't watched in a while, I believe I watched it on Disney Stars. And then I did start a new audiobook, Rob. I think I sent you the link before. I don't know if I know you guys maybe or maybe not into the audiobooks, but you know, me and Rob are big friends of Jack Reacher. Yeah. I sent you a link of some book called Jack Widow.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So I checked it out. I don't know. Have you heard anything about it? Did you look into it at all?
I heard it's atrocious. Like it's just like
I start listening to it, and it's very similar to Jack Reacher. And then at one point in the book, he starts talking about he doesn't know who his father is. And then his mother knows and then reveals to him his father was a drifter. A man who would go around helping people. And I don't know if you remember the scene. There's a scene where I think Jack Reacher hooks up with a girl and they're hooking up on the train tracks because the ground rumbles. Yeah. And she describes that scene. And at that point, I'm like, what am I listening to here?
Oh my God.
It's some type of weird fan fiction of like a son of Jack Reacher, which is really bizarre because I don't know if Lee Child, his name is mentioned in the book. I don't know how far you can get away with stuff like this, but it was really bizarre.
Did you finish it?
I got it on Audible. And I believe you have almost infinite amount of time to return the book. So if I'm not satisfied, so I think I'm going to give it a little bit because it's got like 10 books in the series already. I give it a little bit more.
Jack what?
Jack Widow.
Oh, it's a book series.
Yeah, it's a book series. So this
by
is
Scott Blade.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Scott.
I'm wondering if it's like a cover name for, you know, how his brother or his son or something is supposed to be taking over Jack Reacher. I wonder if it's like a cover for him to start writing something in a similar vein. But I don't know. I just thought it was funny when all of a sudden.
Well, it's so funny because like the titles, like Gone Forever, Winter Territory, A Reason to Kill. Like it sounds like they're all. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm wondering how it works because I did read another series that followed detectives that were chasing Jack Reacher. So they would.
Okay, so this one says it's created the image of Jack Reacher. Widow is a Navy SEAL.
Yeah,
and an NCIS detective. Both. He's a nomadic and across the continent of the U.S. with no credit cards, no phones, no ties to the past. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Before I put the purchase button, I made sure to look up the refund policy on Audible. So I'm probably going to exchange this book because it is really it's getting to a point where it's kind of cringe. So we'll see how it goes. But that was how I spent a good chunk of my my free listening time. So I don't know.
Alrighty.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. Yeah. So we caught up with Gord and Sarah. They're moving. I think Jonathan Yo said he was playing some Star Wars Legion, which is awesome. I know he's traveled to a bunch of out of town tournaments in, even in the States to play some games of that, which is always awesome. If you play a competitive game, if you can travel and check out the scene in other areas or some of the more serious tournaments, I highly recommend it. It's quite an experience and you get to have some fun. So let's see here. Gord says he doesn't mind painting, so I guess you can call Gord up.
Yeah, it's a far drive.
Next time you, you fly in, you can put him up for the night. And movie sucks, yeah, especially when you got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's the one thing about emptying my office, John, is I realized I have a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And you might notice, and I know you can't see in front of me, and I can assure everybody at home, there's the only thing that's in front of me is my monitors, the window, and I have a couple of posters and a TV on the side here. There's nothing, there's no shelving in front of me. But what I don't have are any of my CGC books. I don't have them up or displayed. I think I'm going to sell them, John. I think I'm done with the CGC books.
Yeah, that phase is come and gone for you, which is fine. Yeah. Gord says, he wants previews of the Batwing, and then he'll paint.
I'll send Gord some photo. Maybe he'll enjoy the Batman wall.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your weekend with us. I think Steve mentioned that he's watching 2019's Wayne on Prime. I remember seeing previews for that show, and I didn't know what the hell it was about. It was just a show called Wayne. So yeah,
I've never heard of it.
Definitely, yeah. Steve, let us know what you thought of this Wayne show, if it's worth checking out. And I'm sure some of you maybe are watching Mandalorian. I think we're going to cover that. Some of you have probably wrapped up The Last of Us. We're definitely going to cover that, and I think we're going to have to call Sarah and Gord to talk about that because that feels like their jam. And anything else airing, Rob, that you're really hot?
This month is tons of shit coming out, right? I mean, John Wick 4 opens up this weekend.
Yeah.
Briefly, we've got there's a bunch of shows on that are coming out this week. You've got the final season of Succession is coming out. You've got there's just tons and tons of show. Oh, the Essex County, I think, premieres.
Oh yeah.
Right on CBC. There's a lot. There's a lot of content for the month of March.
Yeah. I heard there were some rave reviews for that. So yeah. On the John Wick hype train, are you going this week, Rob? Anyone in the comments?
But so the weird thing is, I've been trying to get tickets, and they've got tickets for Thursday night shows. I can't go Thursday. My son's got a hockey game. And then Friday, they only have IMAX. They don't have the regular seating yet. So I'm waiting for but my plan is, to go Friday night to go see John Wick 4 for sure.
Yeah. I'm booked in on late Thursday evening because that just seems to work into my schedule right now. So I'm pretty hyped. I'm rewatching John Wick 1, 2. Maybe something in the news later comes up pertaining to someone in those movies. And I'm going to try and watch 3 right before I get to 4 this weekend. So if you guys are hyped and excited for John Wick 4, let us know in the comments. We'll get to that. Steve is talking more about Wayne. I'm going to check that out. But Rob, let's keep it rolling. What do we usually do next? Do we usually talk about stuff in the shop next?
Oh no, what's in the store?
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly drop a couple things. If you don't follow the Heroes World Online on the Instagram and the Facebook, we try to post all the new stuff we got in. So I did mention these cool G.I. Joe Super 7 toys last week. They are here at the shop. They are available. They are hella cool. I'm probably going to try and unbox some on the channel so you guys can check them out. But Super 7 does a very nice figure that looks exactly like those cartoons that you used to watch, or they mimic the exact action figures that you used to have back in the day. So their Ninja Turtle line looks exactly like those old 80s Ninja Turtles, but have been brought up with modern technology and stuff. And then we also have been steadily getting the Joy Toy Warhammer crossover stuff, which is 1/18 scale, so the size of maybe a 3 or 4 inch G.I. Joe. These are really cool. We got these Adaptus Soritas, Sisters of Battle. Yeah, Gesundheit. And then we got these Black Templar guys. They're really awesome. These are nice, chunky figures that you can't find anywhere else except for a place like Heroes World. So come by, check it out. You won't see these at Toys R Us or Walmart, or I don't know if they're even on Amazon. So come check us out. See them in person. They are really cool figures if you're looking to collect something new. But let me kick it to Rob for the news before we get too crazy.
All right,
he does mention Marathon John Wick for Pat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Pat's stepping out. He usually joins me for movies, but he's not coming to John Wick 4. So we'll see.
There's no reason. Okay, John, we're going to kick off tonight's news with some DC news. First off, Shazam! Fury of the Gods opened this week with lower than expected numbers. Yeah, in North America, the movie made just over 30 million and about 65 million. That's contrasted or juxtaposed, with about 50-something million it made in the first movie made in North America. So obviously, this is quite disappointing for all involved, I'm sure. But director David Sandberg has been taking to Twitter the last few days, saying he knew well in advance, months ago, that this movie was not going to perform as well as he had initially hoped for. I don't know, what maybe he saw the tracking long term. Maybe he, saw the plans of DC, what they were going to do with the marketing of it. Obviously, there's a huge cameo in the movie that was completely spoiled.
Oh, 100%.
By Warner in their commercials. But today, Sandberg, just a few hours ago, John, this is a guy who has his roots in horror movies like Annabelle Creation. He went back on Twitter today and stated that he was going to go back to the horror genre. And while he was proud working on the 2 Shazam movies, he's done with the superhero movie business for a while. And one of the main reasons is the superhero discourse online. Sandberg stated that it stressed him out, and he was looking forward to disconnecting from it all. So once again, the geeks and nerds have caused another talent to just walk away from a genre that they so apparently love because nobody can get along, and people like to voice their bullshit opinions online, but not with oh, it was okay, I didn't really like it or whatever. The vitriol, and they're attacking people. And this caused another director to say, I'm done with this, so I'm out. So I know that you haven't seen Shazam 2, John, and I'm not going to get into my thoughts, but I will say it is, the guy has talent. As a director, he has immense talent. And it's shitty that, our, group of people that we would normally associate with their online, shitty community has pushed people away.
Not to justify it or say it's okay to do that, but I would say then to turn off your socials. You know what I mean? If this but
it's leading up to it too.
Yeah,
but look at all the stuff that James it goes with the Snyderverse. It goes with all of this weird shit. The battles of I'm Marvel or DC is better or whatever the case may be. People just can't enjoy shit. And listen, we didn't overly enjoy Black Adam, but we weren't on there bashing people for for it, right? So I don't know, man.
Yeah. Can I bring up the whole Rock thing? I don't know, is that part of your report?
No, it's not. You can bring it up, sure.
Yeah. So a lot of the articles that I saw are basically blaming the Rock, or some of the articles that I read that were slanted to blaming the Rock for kind of taking Black Adam and turning him into his own character, which is what was agreed upon in his contract. But it removes, I think you've stated this before, Shazam's main bad guy. That's taking Lex Luthor out of Superman, taking the Joker away from Batman. And then the whole fact that he seemingly, we reported this on several times, did not want to participate in Shazam whatsoever. This new Shazam 2, right? Even I guess he wouldn't have had an opportunity to participate in Shazam 1, but he didn't talk about it. He didn't shout out Zachary Levi. He didn't say, but still go see Shazam or do anything like that. He was too busy trying to pull Superman, Man of Steel, into his universe, and just basically said, hey, get out of here, this kiddie Shazam movie. But maybe if he went that direction, it would have worked. What are your thoughts on this Rock taking down 2 movies with two birds with one stone, I like to say?
No, I don't know if it can lay entirely at his feet, or even I mean, listen, maybe you can partition off a certain percentage to say, well, Black Adam opened up 6 months ago, very similar. It's a similar movie, similar character. So why? I mean, that could very well be a reason. It siphoned off of Shazam's box office. Had Black Adam open in July, maybe there would have been enough distance between the 2 movies that would have warranted. But why go to the movie theater and watch something you just essentially watched 6 months ago? I don't know. Also, I think though a lot of it is trepidation, the fact that they're rebooting this whole entire DC universe. We know that the Flash plays a role in whatever's happening going forward, but these other movies almost they're like, okay, they're coming out, but they're not really connected to this new phase 1 or whatever they're calling it, chapter 1, right? This gods versus monsters thing. So it's really hard to say. And again, I don't want to get into any spoilers about the movie, so I won't. There is something that may or may not tie Shazam to future, but we just don't know. And so I think there's various reasons as to why maybe this movie did not perform as well. And yes, admittedly, it could also be some of the characters or the plot of the movie. But to lay it all at the feet of The Rock, no, I don't think that's fair at all. I will say, though, The Rock has been completely absent of promoting anything. For a guy who is all about DC, he's been moved to the curb, and as far as he's concerned, he's washed his hands with everything DC related. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but he did seem to, you know what? I'd have to go back and look at the footage. If he was I'm only going to talk about Black Adam. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. Black Adam. All these other things, I'm not playing with the team, or it's not my project. I don't know. He did feel like that kind of became an issue with him. But anyways, we'll move on from that. Anything? What else you got, Rob?
All right. Well, we're going to stick with some DC for a bit, because since we're talking about people who don't want anything to do with superhero movies, Ben Affleck was profiled in the Hollywood Reporter this past weekend and said that his work in the upcoming Flash movie as Bruce Wayne Batman was his best yet. He said he finally was able to crack the character.
His best 5 minutes.
But when asked if he would get behind the camera for DC, Affleck emphatically said no. He said, and I quote John, "I would not direct something Gunn DC. Absolutely not. I have nothing against James Gunn. Nice guy. Sure, he's doing a great job. I just wouldn't want to go in and direct in the way they're doing that. I'm not interested in that." End quote. So that's interesting to me, because Gunn did come out earlier this year when they unveiled this, again, chapter 1 part of it. There's gods and monsters. And Gunn had said in his video message, they're having conversation with Affleck to direct a DC movie. Affleck saying that is not happening whatsoever. I know some people, have issues with Affleck as an actor. I think he's talented, but I think he's very talented as a director. I would have loved to have seen what his Batman directing movie would have been, but that's fine. But yeah, he has zero interest in doing anything with DC and James Gunn. So, John, is this like all right, cool, let's enjoy him. You think it's about 5 minutes. Are we going to enjoy the next 5 minutes of him in the Flash and that's it? Or are you kind of thinking like there might be more to it?
I think it's always funny when you see these type of interviews. If it comes up again and again, and he mentions it during several interviews, then I think there's definitely some either friction or just he doesn't want to be part of it. But you catch him off guard and you ask him about this, and you don't know his tone unless this was an audio or video interview that he did, and he's like, "Oh no, I don't want to be part of James," or like the way he said it, maybe he just was kind of being like, "Oh, I don't want to take the spotlight off him," or maybe he's like, "Yeah, I don't want anything to do with that because it's crushed the whole era that I was part of." But I'm trying to think, like, what would you consider Ben Affleck's like best directed movies, like, or what movie makes kind of stand out for you?
Argo was. Like, this is the one thing that's always driven me crazy. Like, Argo won a bunch of Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. He just didn't get the Best Director nod that year.
Yeah.
How does a movie become the Best Picture when your director? Anyways, but Argo is a great movie. I mean, the ones that he's directed, they're very, very good movies. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing his new one coming out called Air. Right. So. I again, he was originally, he had written and was going to direct and star in the Batman. And then he said, I might step away from acting. Maybe I'll just stick behind the camera. I think I would have loved to have seen his work in the town. His action scenes in the town are really good. So I really would have liked to have seen what he would have done. But, alas, it sounds from his quote. I don't think that could be misconstrued as being, no, I don't know. He's just like, no, nothing about it. I have zero interest in doing that.
Yeah. So. He could also be suffering the fatigue of the Shazam's director that I'm tired of dealing with this superhero stuff. This, wash my hands of this. I'm tired of fielding questions.
Like memes, right?
Yeah. I'm tired of all these memes. I'm tired of people making fun of me on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. He might be just, I'm out right now, but maybe Gunn produces some really good stuff and we see a whole new wave of DC. But so like the Reeves Batman, you had faith in that director there. So if you say Affleck probably could have made a very cool Batman movie or something cool for the DC, I'm on board with you, Rob. I trust your opinion in that respect.
Okay.
What else we got?
Nothing else. Speaking of James Gunn in DC, we knew that he was writing the Superman Legacy movie, and now it appears he's going to direct as well. Now it was Gunn had a Twitter thread about his decision late last week, and that he said, "Listen, I was approached a number of years ago by at the time by Warner's in DC to do Superman. I couldn't find a way into the character. I said no thanks, but I did." That's at the time that I said, I'm going to step in and do the Suicide Squad. And then, up about a year or so ago, he was reapproached again, and he sat and he was able to crack down the wall to find a way that he wanted to tell a story that he could tell with Superman as a character. And while he's been writing it, he's finally relented and said, okay, you know what? I'm going to direct the movie. So the movie is scheduled to drop on July the 11th, 2025. And in his Twitter thread, he had said, his brother called him and said, do you know, like, why did you pick that date? And Gunn's like, I don't know. And he goes, that's the date of our dad's passing. Like, it would have been like his, I guess, the 8th anniversary or whatever. And his dad had shown, James Gunn and his brother Superman growing up. And so he was like, he never even realized. So he goes that just added something for him because it is a story about family and hope and some of that. So there we are. James Gunn is set to direct Superman. I don't think it's a surprise. I think we all kind of assumed that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But John, is this like a good news story, or is this more like I don't know if he's
right? I think it's good news. He takes projects like Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and Guardians, and he's kind of warmed up to this whole superhero life. And those movies, as much as some people criticize, they're fun, they're goofy, they're silly. There's a lot of heart that can be pulled out of those movies, which is what Superman's all about. So I look forward to the Rocket Raccoon story, even Peacemaker. A lot of the characters in Peacemaker, I think that is still one of the best superhero shows, even though it gets really over the top, raunchy, goofy. It's got a lot of really good character moments. So I think he's going to do a good job with Superman. I think it'll be his time to produce a movie that doesn't go to the goofy side if he sticks to just something else. I think he can 100% do it. Yeah, family. So yeah, if you guys are looking forward to James Gunn Superman project, let us know in the comments.
Okay, we're going to shift away from DC movies. According to the Hollywood Reporter, John, Quentin Tarantino will commence filming on his final movie this fall. Tarantino has said for years he only wanted to direct 10 movies, and this fall he is set to direct The Movie Critic. No word on plot or a release date. I think, John, it's safe to say if he's starting to film it this fall, we're probably looking for a fall or winter release of 2024, right before those Academy Awards, right? You're probably looking November-ish, maybe December. So, John, how do you feel about QT walking away from the business after The Movie Critic?
I don't know. I feel like if it's good, I am still gonna want more. I think he's talked about other interviews. He's done a bunch of books and stuff, and he's maybe got a TV show in the Colster or whatever. But this, like you said, this is what he's been saying every single interview he's done. So if he doesn't do it, I think there'll be a lot of backlash. Unless he starts directing under a ghost name or something like that. I question the title because he did recently write a book that talked about, I guess, his critique or how films. The history of films, which talks about a whole bunch of old movies, which don't interest me.
Okay.
So I'm a little concerned that maybe he's not going to do a Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood type thing.
Well, it's interesting though, because if you look at the last few movies, he's done some revisionist history things, right? Especially Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Glorious Bastards. Those are revisionist history. So it'll be very interesting to find out what he does. It is funny though, I would love to revisit it. I was actually talking to my wife about how much I loved Pulp Fiction. I remember, I was like, oh, I should get a Pulp Fiction poster for my office. I remember going to the theater and it being over Fairview Mall way before they did the renovations. Because this is 1994, right? So it being oversold, and I was sitting on an aisle, on the stairs, watching. They must have oversold it by about 100 seats, right? And people were just sitting in the aisles. I loved that movie. And my wife was like, oh, I want, I said, oh, it's too bad. I couldn't show it to my son right now. I mean, he's 14. And she's like, why? And there's a lot of vernacular in there that are just, 1994 was a long time ago. Right. But I would love to at some point, John, for us to maybe revisit some of those, Tarantino movies, because I think that they just changed filmmaking at that time. You look at Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, like it really changed. I think it was a pop cultural shift, much the same way, begrudgingly for you, that grunge music shifted the musical landscape from hair metal to different. There's always these shifts on
I love grunge music
in entertainment, right? So would love to revisit those things. But yeah, it is gonna be kind of sad that this is his 10th and final movie. Hopefully, and I'm one of those things though where it's like I kind of hope he sticks with it, because all of his marketing has always been, the 4th film by Quentin Tarantino, the 8th film by Quentin Tarantino. So this will be kind of cool. He's going to be like the 10th and final film. So we'll see. I mean, he's 60 right now, right? So
he's always stated he wants to go out like on top, but like I said, there's so much different media that he could produce for. He does have a podcast right now. Like he said, I've heard him mention several interviews where he's got a TV show in the tuck. And books and stuff like that. So even if it is his last movie, I don't think it'll be the last we see of him. But I'm definitely down. I'm definitely down, Rob, if you want to go back and hit Pulp Fiction or Jackie Brown. I've never seen Jackie Brown.
That's an interesting one. We'll have to talk about that one, because it definitely was a change, because it wasn't one that he had written. That was a Elmore Leonard book. All right. And finally, John, we have to end, unfortunately, on some sad and shocking news. As we said earlier at the beginning of the show, this week sees the release of John Wick 4. And one of the stars of the Wick quadrilogy is unfortunately no longer with us. The great Lance Reddick passed away at the age of 60 years old. Along with the John Wick franchise, Reddick is best known for his roles in The Wire, which has been, I've always said, one of my top 10 shows of all time. Fringe, which I'm a big fan of, as well as he appeared in Lost. John, you know how I am for that. Yeah. According to his publicist, Reddick had passed away from natural causes. Obviously, no official word has been released yet. And this guy was a huge gamer, though, and was huge in the Destiny realm. Having played Destiny 2, he voiced a character, and he also had been playing up until about a day or so before his passing. When news broke on Saturday night, thousands of Destiny players, John, honored Reddick's character Zavala. I might be mispronouncing the name. I don't play Destiny 2. But they went to the tower where Zavala was, and apparently it only let 16 people in at a time. People were in hundreds in the queue to line up to pay tribute to Reddick's character Zavala. So, the sad news, Lance Reddick, 60 years old, but we, sir, are bidding you a fond farewell. Your talents will be greatly missed. I was honestly shocked as shit.
Gone way too soon. I was just watching John Wick 2 the same day that it was announced. I had just finished it, where he comes and takes care of John Wick's dog, and I was looking forward to 3 when he gets into the mix. And I learned that he has done many of the voices on various animated shows that even my kids watch, or that we watched growing up. So rest in peace. Condolences to his family, friends, and fans. So great loss. So rest in peace, good sir.
Yeah, and that's the news.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Rob. I do want to throw one more thing at you, that The Last of Us is announced to have a Blu-ray release coming out.
Oh, cool.
July 18th time. This is the picture of the Steelbook edition. I guess it's coming out in the UK or something like that. Is that something that's cool to you, or are you just going to let it live on your Crave HBO?
No,
I know you like to buy content, right?
I'd probably pick it up. It's funny. So it actually released last week. So the finale ended 2 weeks ago. A week this past Sunday. And on the Monday or Tuesday, it was already on Apple iTunes, the whole season.
Yeah.
They hadn't released it at all. In the US, it's not released on iTunes until later into April. So for whatever reason, the Canadian iTunes have got it first and early. But
it was on the Cineplex app, where you can rent stuff.
Yeah.
I was scrolling through my thing. It's like rent The Last of Us. I'm like, what? This is weird.
And thank you to you. You're probably one of only 3 people who actually use the Cineplex app for anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would totally I'd pick this up. Here's the reality: is now they've got the game going good, right? Is that you used to be able to get the Blu-rays or 4K and it would come with a digital code. Now most of them don't do that anymore. So you almost have to buy both if you want both. So I'll definitely pick up physical copies of The Last of Us. I have it for The Watchmen. There's now that in the days of streaming where these shows kind of live, as you said, forever on whatever streaming services, you have to be like really important for me to have copies of it. And I have The Watchmen. I love that show, and I have that on physical media. And I'll do the same for The Last of Us.
Yeah, 100%. Now that I've started, I've cut services here and there, or I'll take a month off or whatever. I do appreciate the idea of actually owning it, either via digital or a physical copy, which is nice to look at. Like that.
Yeah,
this steel book is hella cool.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah. So
I wonder if it's like raised metal. Do you know, like if it's embossed, I guess you could say, right? So
yeah,
cool.
yeah. No, that would be dope. But thank you everybody for checking out the news. Rest in peace to Lance Reddick. I wonder. I assume he's in John Wick 4, so we might see him again this week. And then his legacy will live on. So yeah, Michelle says, in streaming, nothing is forever. I don't know, unless some of those Netflix shows got removed, right? Some shows are getting removed from streaming once they've either been canceled or discontinued.
Well, it's funny because Amazon did release Reacher digitally and on physical, and I was like,
okay.
Oh. I was thinking of purchasing that as well, but I kind of figured since it's owned by Amazon, I don't think that they would. But yeah, it was the weird thing is, John, is that they don't have it in 4K. It's just HD. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Yes. So you have to watch it. You have to stream it off Amazon to get the 4K version then?
No, they don't even know. They don't. It's just not streamed at all. Even so, if you go through iTunes, it's just an HD version of it. They don't have it. They don't have a 4K copy. It's weird. Yeah.
Weird. All right. We're getting into weird times, folks, where these digital things like I feel like even if it's exclusive to some Netflix or whatever, I feel like it also should be available digitally. So it's just a bonus if you have Netflix, but if you want to own it, whatever. But anyways, all right. Thank you, everybody. That's the news, Rob. Should we jump to our movie now, or is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, let's just remind everybody that what I don't know. What do you want to talk about, John? We're going to talk about what we're doing this week and next week. Is this kind of the
Okay, yeah. So let's what's coming up. Yeah. So if you did not watch The Equalizer and you're not joining us for The Equalizer, we're going to talk about it. So hopefully, if you haven't seen it or if you haven't seen it in a while, we'll refresh your memories or entice you to go see it. Next week, we will be jumping to Man on Fire, which I discovered is criminally underrated on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't feel like it's anywhere near this 38% score that they've gotten it. But we'll
I remember being kind of bored when I first saw it, John, and I haven't seen it since. So I have it. I've purchased a copy, and I will be watching it.
Yeah. And then the following week after that, we are going to dive into Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. I really look forward to that one. And then after that, you'll have to tune in. And upcoming on the Heroes World podcast, we will probably be talking about, I think Mandalorian's on the docket. Last of Us is probably going to end up on there for sure. And then if you guys want to do Shazam, you guys can go ahead and do Shazam.
It's worth having conversations about, John.
Yeah. So stay tuned for all that stuff and more if we come up with some other stuff and things like that. Rob, anything else?
No, that's it. So I'll take the baton, John.
Yeah.
As John said, tonight's movie is The Equalizer, and I got the rundown here for you, Pally.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so the reason we were doing this is I don't even know. We were talking about Tony Scott. We go back in the Wayback Machine a few weeks ago where we were doing a Tony Scott kind of mini marathon, and John had mentioned that the last movie one of the last movies one of John's favorite Tony Scott directed movies was Man on Fire, and I was like, I think Equalizer is a better action movie for Denzel Washington. And that's what began this entire face-off of Denzel versus Denzel. So, The Equalizer was released September 26, 2014, reteaming Denzel Washington with his Training Day director, Antoine Fuqua. The movie is loosely based, John, on the TV series of the same name that starred Edward Woodward and ran for 5 seasons on CBS. The concept of that show, John, was Woodward played Robert McCall, who was a former covert operations dude who was British, but he was a covert guy for America. I don't know, who wanted to atone for his past by offering his help to those who needed it, John. He was a troubleshooter, a protector, an investigator, an equalizer, if you will. Sounds very much like John Wick. Jack Reacher. So the TV series begat a movie, which then begat a TV series starring Queen Latifah as Robin McCall, but there's no ties to this movie franchise whatsoever, all right? So I just wanted to get that out of the way in case
you never know. Equalizer 3 on the way.
Related? No. Let's get back to the movie, which sees Washington take on the role of McCall, who is a Marine turned DIA operative. And yes, I said DIA, not CIA. The DIA, John, are the Defense Intelligence Agency, which specializes in defense and military intelligence. I didn't know that was a real thing. It is. It sounds like a wicked-ass agency, and I'm wondering why we don't have more movies with DIA agents, because they're badass, like Robert McCall. Other notable stars in this movie would be a former Hellboy, David Harbour, former President Bill Pullman, and former hit girl Chloe Grace Moretz, who does bring a new meaning to hit girl in this movie. About 40 years earlier, Russell Crowe did try to make an Equalizer with Crash director Paul Haggis, but that fizzled, and in stepped Denzel Washington, who then suggested to producers, hey, Antoine Fuqua would be great to direct this picture. On a budget of $60 million, we brought in $192 million at the box office. Upon its release, John, it was met with decent reviews and currently stands at 60% fresh critic score and a 76% audience score. Now, get this, 7 months before the release of the movie, Sony Pictures announced they were planning a sequel to the movie. And it was confirmed on April 22nd, 2015, that this movie made enough, cash to warrant another sequel. So guess what, John? In January of 2022, a third Equalizer movie was announced, and E3, as I'm now calling it, will be released September the 1st of this year, and will reteam Denzel Washington with his Man on Fire co-star Dakota Fanning. And Man on Fire is what we're reviewing next week. And I know what you guys are all thinking. Oh my God, John and Rob are absolutely brilliant with this planning stuff. So, John, after this movie, do you want to be equalized, or are you hyped to be sequelized?
Sounded like a leftover rap lyric from your rap days. I wonder exactly what he's equalizing, right? Because I was like, why do they call him the Equalizer? Like, to equalize something, it would mean like the bad guys are here, you're here, and then he brings it to here. So you need someone else to kind of put you over the top.
He's bringing order to the chaos. He's equalizing out people's lives
to beat the other side, right? So like how does it? I wish he said at some point you've been equalized, or how does it feel to be equalized? But yeah, this pairs Antoine Fuqua, who I love since like Replacement Killers and music videos and all kinds of stuff he did back in the day, and I love Training Day. Training Day is probably in my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Okay.
And then Denzel Washington, who's also in my top 5 of like performers of all time. So this seems like it should be a pairing that made sense. And for some reason, back in the day, when this first came out, I don't think I was super on board yet. Steve with it's equalizing time. Yeah, if he's like setting all his traps in his head, he's like equalizing time, right? It'd be funny. Sorry, John's shutting out. How long did you work on that line? I feel like not very long. but it's fantastic. And Rob, I think I pinpointed exactly what my issue was, because there's 2 other movies that we quite enjoy that came out pretty much at almost the exact same time, maybe a little bit before this or a little bit after this. Do you think those movies? Do you think you have an idea of what those movies are?
Well, yeah, one was John Wick, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one,
we've already mentioned him during this podcast.
I mentioned it during this podcast?
Well, the name of the character.
Oh, yeah, Jack Reacher, the first Jack Reacher movie.
Yeah. So Tom Cruise is Jack Reacher.
Yeah.
And John Wick come out the same year, I think within months of this movie or a little bit before it. And while Jack Reacher didn't revolutionize action as we see it now that John Wick has done, the action in here doesn't quite match that. But the movie, like everything about it, like the character, the way it's filmed, and the setup of all these kind of this revenge plot and all that kind of, or vigilante plot, is great. So I actually, on this recent rewatch, I quite enjoyed it, Rob. I feel like I wasn't kind of like, I feel like back then I probably was like, oh, he's not doing like this gun fu John Wick stuff to these guys, right? He's just kind of murdering them in very creative ways. I think Michelle made the joke. It's like A-Team or MacGyver, where he creates like really creative ways to murder these guys. It's like the whole Home Depot scene at the end is almost like a rejected like Predator scene from Predator 2 or something, where like all this stuff comes in, like hammers a Predator down, like in Predator 1.
He home alone it, right?
Yeah, 100%. But Denzel's really good. He's really effective in this type of character. I'm not surprised that there's sequels to it. So Rob, how did you feel about, like, I'm happy with rewatching this, and I think this film does sit in Denzel's action toolbox near the top somewhere until I get to rewatching Man on Fire, which I think still takes the top, and then Training Day is just like the top for me. Rob, how do you feel about Equalizer?
Yeah, so I just took a look. So Jack Reacher actually came out in 2012, but you're right. John Wick came out a month later, October 24th.
Okay, I think I saw it this year. I like waited on it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, for Jack Reacher, or sorry, Equalizer dropped this is the 26th of September, and then literally 4 weeks later was John Wick. I think, it's possible that the Equalizer, got lost in the John Wick wave, right? Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of hype for Wick leading up to it. Based on what had come out in the summertime, some small previews and whatnot. So bad timing, I guess, because I felt like this movie kind of flew under the radar. I really enjoyed this movie. I've seen it, I gotta say, I don't know, maybe no more than half a dozen times. So, it's a fair amount. I quite enjoy the movie. We've talked about this, John. I like those, man getting revenge, like whether it is the Jack Reacher, the John Wick, even, the one with Liam Neeson, like, yeah, I like those, those type of movies, right? I found
helping people out.
Yeah. And kicking and guys. Yeah. Like, it's almost like, better versions of Death Wish, right? Like just destroying people. The one thing I guess I find that the movie it felt low budget. Like, I was very surprised that it was a $60 million budget, because it felt like if I had done the research and it was like 25 million, I would not have been surprised. I felt like it was a low budget. I mean, there's not a lot of set pieces. He goes to the diner like 6 times, and it's a slow start. Like, I tried getting my son to watch it, and he was pretty bored. Like, he saw the first action scene because I forced him to wait for when McCall goes to visit the Russian mobsters.
Yeah, I feel like that's almost an hour in, right?
It's 35 minutes in. Yeah, 35 to 45 minutes in. So it's long to get there. The one thing that you really notice, and they didn't play up a lot on, John, it kind of forces you to pay attention, is that he's got OCD, right? Yeah. Like, it's the whole OCD thing. Like, you can kind of tell if you're paying, with the him checking, the cutlery. He only has 1 fork, 1 spoon, 1 knife. He likes things in a certain way, the twisting, like, you can tell he's OCD, but they didn't play into it too much. Like, they had it there, they showed you, and then they almost kind of dropped it. But him timing his whatever he was doing, you couldn't tell, is that a matter of him in his training, or is that his OCD? Like, there was never a distinction about that. But what made, I think, despite the fact that the movie has like a bit of a low budget feel, Denzel Washington is creepy AF. Like, he's got that dead look on his face and his eyes are haunting. And I can't remember, John, a movie where your protagonist watches his victim die. Like, if you go back and watch this movie, almost every person he killed, he sat there and watched them like take their last breath, or whatever the case may be. And he sat there with this dead expressionless look on his face. And that made the killings even that much more like crazy. Because you'll think, oh, he was having the conversation with the guy when he shot him in the neck, and he was like, you're bleeding out, your heart's racing faster, and this and that. You've got about maybe, 15 seconds. But every other death scene, especially in Home Depot, you just see his eyes just staring at people as they were like fading out of existence, right? So I think Washington's performance elevated this movie to where we've got now 2 sequels. I think if it ain't anybody else, like Russell Crowe, I think it'd be very hard pressed to think that this movie would have been as good as it is.
Yeah, yeah, no. Denzel delivers like a phenomenal. Like he's great in everything. I debate if we went back and watched Ricochet or Virtuosity, maybe they're not quite as good as I remember them from my childhood. But yeah, he's a stone cold killer in this. Lots of bodies hit the floor in this one, and he just kind of does it without remorse. Yeah, I do like the OCD elements that got into the movie, but it feels like either they realized it later on in filming, or they didn't have time to include more. But yeah, I think that scene you're talking about when he's moving the skulls around the table, and then starts his watch and he's like opens and shuts the door like a bunch of times. That's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
And some of the other scenes don't quite get to that level of letting Denzel act. And the violence that ensues when he destroys that whole room. You guys let us know in the comments what you thought of Equalizer, if you watched it or if you haven't watched it in a while. Fraser says he does quite like Equalizer, but he thinks his favorite Denzel movie is Book of Eli, which I haven't seen in a while.
It's been a really long time.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have to put those. We'll have to go on a whole Denzel tear, and we'll have like a ranked Denzel bracket.
No Virtuosity.
Russell Crowe, your boy.
Yeah. He lost it with me, and Man of Steel just opening my doors with his hand. The one thing, Denzel's he's very unassuming, right? That was the other thing, is that like he's an unassuming in so much so even like the main villain, when he gets he has that conversation in the hallway of his apartment. It's like, oh, he's pretending he's a detective, and he's like, oh, you're at the club, and they're having this conversation. You can see McCall starts stepping in front a little bit, and he's positioning himself between the door and the banister, and it's like it's almost like a dance, like they're trying to see, and then the other guy is shuffling on the step, and he goes up a step, and they're moving back. It's just subtleties, right? But when he gets back in the car, the guy's like, one of his henchmen are like, oh, how was that? And he goes, he doesn't fit the profile. And that was like the one thing. It's like, this is unassuming dude, and he's like this trained killer. And when he went to visit his old boss, the old DIA boss, and Bill Pullman's like, oh, did he ask for your help? And she's like, no, he came here to ask for permission.
Yeah. I had forgotten that whole scene was in there, and it's actually a really cool scene. She gets the information for him, and he's basically just checking if it's okay if he takes this piece off the board, and eliminates it. So yeah, I think he's a really cool character. Any of the side characters, it was really funny to see David Arbor in there as this kind of low rent thug dude.
Okay, his accent kept coming and going in the movie. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but sometimes he talked with a Boston accent. I know they're in Philly. I don't know what the accent in Philly is. But they were talking, and then all of a sudden he'd be talking normally like this, and then he'd be going, what do you want? What do you want? And I was like, come on, man. Your accent keeps coming and going. Pick one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Steve mentions the guy with the bald head and the beard and the mustache. Yeah. I just watched him get murdered in John Wick.
Yeah.
I think it's in John Wick 1. So I think he's I don't know if he's an MMA fighter or something.
Yeah, he used to be a UFC guy. I can't remember his name.
He's an actual dude. That's why they let him, I guess, keep his look that is very, very noticeable. But yeah, Rob, do you have any other favorite cast members other than?
No, I wouldn't say. I would say though, I gotta be honest. Like I remember feeling uncomfortable with Chloe Grace Moretz being like this hooker, because like we saw her in Hit Girl, we saw her in some other things, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't know if she just like, at that time she was struggling to find work and she took this gig. I don't know, but it seemed somewhat like beneath her to play this like really like fourth character. Like it just seemed weird that she'd be so,
there's a point in the movie where she just straight up disappears and then shows up at the very, very end, right?
Yeah. And so I was just kind of surprised. Like I said, you would see that, from maybe an actor who's starting out. That'd be like one of their first, gigs or whatever, right? So I was a bit, and it was just weird, and so that's why it's always thrown me off a little bit.
Yeah.
This whole notion of her being in this movie.
I think they really wanted her to seem like a kid. She does look like a really young kid.
Yeah.
In this really crappy situation, and
Yeah.
that's the trigger that launches Denzel into like, I'm just gonna fix everybody's problems. So like he fixes her problem, then it leads into those guys extorting his co-worker, burning down the restaurant, and then the
cops.
thug, the two cops, and then the thug who steals the ring from the he just comes back with I forgot what he took. Like it was
it's a sledgehammer.
Yeah, it was a sledgehammer. Yeah, he dusts it off, puts it back on the rack. So you potentially own a murder weapon if you've been to that Home Depot lately.
Yeah.
But Jonathan Yo says he enjoys the bad guy. Yeah, I thought the bad guy was pretty convincing, where it could become really silly and over the top, and you're just like, what an idiot. He did seem fairly smart, except towards the end where he had everybody split up and die off like a Jason movie. But yeah, overall, yeah.
Are you gonna? I thought the action scenes. I think we have to I really enjoyed the action scenes in this movie. I enjoyed how fast it was. It was different than the gung fu stuff that John Wick had done. And there are distinct differences between the two movies for that reason. And I would think overall that John Wick did a much better job. But this is where I think this movie unfortunately got caught up in the Wick wave.
Yeah.
Because had Wick not come out, I think people would have been talking about the action in the scenes probably in this movie maybe a bit more, because it was so fast. Like when he removed the gun out of that guy's hands, when the guy was holding the gun towards him, and he goes, when he goes to the plant towards the end with David Harbour. And he's like, oh, is that a cockler or whatever, right? A heckin' cockler or whatever. And the guy's like, oh, you want to see my gun? He points it and he goes, oh, I don't want to see it like that. And he flips it and he spins it and is holding it. It's like, it was so fast. Like we've seen that move before, but for whatever reason, it looked so fluid with Denzel doing it and not like, because sometimes when you see that movie, it's from a different angle and you have somebody else doing it, right? So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed even the in the scene in the diner where he's sitting there reading and the guy comes in and he goes, is it just you? And the guy's like, pardon me? And he goes, for a guy working the power lines, you have pretty, your hands don't seem to, and he kills a guy with a book, John. He kills a guy with a book. It brings me hope that I've got all these big
kill a man with an omnibus. So what do you think is your favorite action sequence? I think I think the top two are 100% the one where he goes into the room with the skulls and confronts the main guy who should have just took what was it, like $8,000 or whatever?
$9,800, John.
Yeah, it was like some really funny number.
Yeah, because when they kept saying, he goes, you come here with $9,000. He goes, 800.
Yeah. So Denzel said does such a good job of selling this battered up envelope, and this guy 100% should took it. But I feel like it's that one and the final Home Depot scene. Like the diner scene is great, but I feel like it's a little too short. But those two scenes, what do you like best?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think those two scenes are absolutely the best. The diner scene, though, it reminded me, John, and we're gonna have to do a comparison, because I think it was John Wick 2 where he killed, was it Boban, the really tall guy, and he killed him in the library with a book. Do you remember that? We should take those two scenes and try to and try to, who was a better murderer with a book.
I think the art of killing is definitely just more amplified in a John Wick movie, but the storyline behind these characters might be, I don't know if it's stronger in Equalizer, but you certainly become pretty attached to the character and the story that he's living in, and the fact that he doesn't just go straight up and murder everybody right away. He takes some time. But I would choose the skull scene. I really like the skull scene. Over, I think there was more intricacies in it. Sorry, people said I got an echo going on.
I don't hear it at all.
I'm gonna try and turn it down a bit, maybe see if that helps. I don't know if it's coming off on your end, but Rob, go ahead.
So now here's my question to you, John, because I know we're gonna be wrapping up here. Is now, after watching this, are are you inclined to watch Equalizer 2 that's out right now? And then would you go see the third one, or are you kind of like, meh?
No, I definitely, I've never watched Equalizer 2, so I did start it after watching this, so I'm a little partway through it. It opens a little bit differently than this movie, so I think it's going to take a while to get to the point where I'm like, oh, now this character is familiar. So yeah, thanks, Fraser. I guess the gain on my mic was a little too high. But Rob, before we wrap up Equalizer, I want to ask you, who do you think got it the worst in this movie? Because a lot of guys got it pretty bad. So I've got a couple in the tuck if you need some hints, but I don't know if you have someone that stands out in your mind.
I was like, John's going to ask me who I think got it the worst, and I was like, my immediate instinct was be the one that we didn't see, with a guy with the sledgehammer when he's wiping the blood off. I was like, that guy probably got it real bad because of sledgehammer is not fun at all. But the ones that we saw, I would give it to the corkscrew face.
Yeah. That was in my top. Yeah.
Corkscrew face got it pretty bad. And listen, I'm not gonna lie, the book one, that was breaking your neck with a spine of a book is just real bad.
Yeah. The corkscrew is in my top list because you get punched a bunch of times, and then he sticks it through the guy's thing, and you can see it in his mouth.
Yeah,
and it'd be funny if he took the time to like slowly unscrew it. He's like, let me get this out for you. But there's a guy that dies in the Home Depot, and he gets a drill to the back of the neck. I'm like, that thing must have been on really high, because you couldn't just poke someone in the back because they'd like move. So I don't know if he like grabbed the guy after and had to like push it through, and then he puts the drill back on the shelf after. I'm like, oh my God. I guess he was like, yeah, that was too much. Maybe I shouldn't kill anyone else with this drill.
Yeah, I mean, even the nail gun, right? At the end.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing. I don't think nail guns work that way. I'm fairly certain.
No, you have to modify it. This isn't Lethal Weapon.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because So okay, what was a better nail gun death? Was it Lethal Weapon or was it this one?
This guy got a lot of nails in him.
He got nailed. Yeah,
he got nailed. But did Lethal Weapon? Didn't someone get in the eye? I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, it was behind him, and it was the plastic. It was behind the plastic, the tarp, because they were remodeling the house.
Yeah.
And he got kadunk in the eye.
Yeah. That's always the biggest fear when you start working with tools like that. You're like, what if this bounces off something and nails me in the eye?
I got paint in my eye.
Because they got the point
for 30 minutes.
Oh man, yeah. Fraser's like, yeah, if you can remove the safety, so Fraser knows how to get those things flying, just in case. I picture, Fraser's like holding the gun. He's like, I wonder how you can get this to just fire out like those movies.
Yeah. Note to self: never go to Fraser's house if he's asking anybody want to come over and help me build something. I'm good.
Let me show you how this nail gun thing works.
Yeah,
Fraser, please wear protective eyewear around the nail guns
and provide it to your guests.
Yeah. Rob, what do you think? You said you didn't watch the TV show after this, or you're not a fan of the TV?
I saw the first 2 episodes of the show, but I had zero interest in it. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, I watched it and I liked it for what it was, and I did like Queen Latifah getting her groove on. I thought it was it's a solid part for her. I think she definitely is the best part of that show from the episodes I watched. So much so that the other performers with her needed to level up a bit. But yeah, anyways, all right, let's wrap up the Equalizer for now. And
would you recommend people who haven't seen
it? Yeah. Equalizer. Do you want to own it, Rob, or
I have it?
Or so Rob, you already own it. I think I'm okay with this existing on streaming and popping up when I want to watch it, because once you kind of see how things unfold, you're good. And in a head-to-head fight, something like a John Wick or a Jack Reacher wins for me, because it's got a little bit more pop, like a little bit more fire going on with it. But yeah, 100%. I think this was a good rewatch. So I look forward to being able to compare this directly to Man on Fire, and I'm happy that I liked it more on the rewatch, because I do like Fuqua and I do like Denzel. And who doesn't like a good vigilante revenge movie? So if you guys didn't watch it, 100% go watch it. Check it out, and it's going to spawn a whole. Maybe we'll see what happens after 3 comes out. But I'm looking forward to Dakota Fanning and Denzel reuniting. So yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, I haven't. It's been years since I saw Man on Fire, and I did not really enjoy it when I first saw it. So I'm looking forward to going back.
I'm so surprised. Me, Andre, and like the whole crew were just enamored by it.
Yeah,
But maybe we were just in a particular zone.
you're high.
Maybe.
You had edibles, and you were all buzzed out of your brains. That's how I watched the first. I watched Spawn. First time I saw Spawn in theaters in 1997, I was high as a kite.
Yeah,
and
you're like, this is the best ever.
I remember I had a bag of Twizzlers and I had opened them up, and then the Spawn, the letters start flying at you with fire, and I was like, oh, like that. And then the end of the movie, and I looked down, I hadn't even taken one damn Twizzler out of my, because I was just tripping balls watching this stupid movie, and I thought it was the greatest thing. I saw it sober, and I was like, what the hell?
Oh man. Okay. So no to Spawn right now. Yes to Equalizer. Unless you get mad high like Rob, and then you can go watch Spawn. But all right. So Equalizer is in the bag. Next week, stay tuned, folks. Join us for Man on Fire. I don't believe it's streaming on anything, so you will have to rent a copy or buy a copy. But I think it's worth it. Although it's been some time since I saw it. But Christopher Walken, Denzel Washington, Dakota Fanning, like this, and more. There's a lot of other people that appear in this film, I believe, including Mark Anthony, Rob's guy.
Right. It's Jennifer Lopez.
Mark Anthony. So tune in for that, folks. And then following that, we will have Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol. And as always, each week we're going to talk about the latest breaking geek and nerdy news, what you guys got up to, and whatever else is currently going on. So thank you for always joining us each week. It's always a blast, especially in the comments. And then Jonathan, and Mark Anthony, I don't remember what his songs are, but whatever. Rob is incriminating himself. Allegedly.
No, I was high. It wasn't allegedly, John. I was stoned.
Didn't inhale. Anyways, thank you for joining us on your random Monday night. Hopefully you had some fun, and you will tune in next week or listen to it on the rewatch or whatever. Rob, any parting words that we gotta do? Is it equalizing time?
It's equalizing.
Go Equalizer.
That's right.
Rangers.
That's right. Yeah. I've been equalized.
I still want to know the exact definition of equalizer, because I feel like if you equalize, it gets to here, and then you need that extra sauce to stomp out those bad guys. But
if he was a DJ, would he be using an equalizer? I don't know.
Yeah. Is a shirt of an equalizer on his thing. Yeah, Michelle's got the best one. You've been equalized. Michelle did mention she has not seen any of the John Wick movies. Now's the time. Go watch all 3, and then go see 4, and we're going to talk about it in probably about a week or so.
I remember kind of being a bit bored with number 3, so hopefully number 4 is a bit better.
Yes, I'm concerned there is a gap in 3 that is not super exciting, but we'll get to it. If you haven't, we did do a whole bunch of rewatches. I feel like, was it last year, Rob? We did the whole John Wick rewatch, or was it before 3 came out?
It's been a long time.
I think we did a rewatch of 1, 2, and 3, and we ranked the bad guys and had some fun with it. So you can dig through our archives and check that out. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We're going to check you guys. The dog does. Spoiler alert, but it's a small part of the movie. You got to keep going.
Well, yeah, but it's the crux of the entire freaking franchise.
No, it keeps going. It builds. More things build on top of that. But yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Mr. Rob.
Thanks, buddy. See you, everybody. Take care.
Yeah. Have fun painting.
Equalizing that.